In the 1970s and 80s, the industry was very tightly controlled by the life officers, commonly known in those days as the Life Officers Association. So if a person wanted to have a contract with an underwriter, they were completely and absolutely locked into that institution. They couldn't choose where they wanted their investments. They couldn't, after a while, say, I'd like to leave company X and move to company Y. They could, but there would be very, very expensive penalties on transfer. So they held you captive to that institution, whether they performed well or they didn't. And I kind of felt that was an unethical move, holding people in. So we started with the concept of having a person could have an administrator of their policy, but then they could have their assets with whatever institution they wanted, and that they could move their assets from one institution to the other at no cost. It was a seamless transfer. So we, as a business, do not have any assets which we own or manage on behalf of clients. We are purely administrators. And we keep an arm's length between ourselves and the funds which we manage by having a board of trustees who have the right to dismiss us if they feel that we're not doing our job in the interests of our members. So it keeps us on our toes, provides independence to the clients, and gives them the choice of moving. And that's what we did in the 1970s. Very different, very unusual. It caught on very quickly. We place a lot of value on what's right for the client rather than what's right for us. And our experience is if you do it right for the client does it right for you. Hence, we've never been wanting to be the biggest company in South Africa or the largest in this industry. In fact, many other companies now far, far bigger than us and really progressed in this industry on this line. I started in the industry in 1974 and started my own business around about 1976. And from there it evolved for the development or the requirement to have Multilect as a business. I don't have any formal education. I left school and I started working, and that's how my life, I've got 45 years plus of experience under my belt, and that's where it lies. So I'll say 80% of our staff plus have over 20 years of experience in the industry. So we're top heavy in human capital in terms of knowledge. We've examined this and thought about it because it helps us to pave the way into the future. In the last 40 years, we've seen insurance companies come and go, we've seen banks come and go, we've seen building societies come and go, and we're still here. So we examine, why are we still here? What is it that's keeping us going? And I think A, we're small, which is a good and a bad. We're small, so we're adaptable to a changing market very quickly. B, we're not trying to take on the big giants, so we're way below the horizon, so we're not a threat to anybody. But our key is that we are always looking for ways and means to provide something good for the client. Our clients have led to our growth. They have been our biggest supporters, and they have been the ones who've invited their colleagues to consider using our services. What do we want to do or not do? We will never become a call center type business. Our clients are too precious for us. The biggest highlight was actually getting our license to start. We really had to have a big battle with the authorities in Pretoria to get a license. I think part of it was the closed shop of our industry at the time, and what we wanted to do was potentially a threat or something which they weren't familiar with. So we almost were at the doors of a courthouse before we got our license. So that was a big moment. We became an independent institution in that field. Other highlights, we were because we were young and small, we were very innovative, and we brought ideas which are now common in South Africa. One which we were the first to bring about was that within your retirement annuity or your insurance contract, you could, if you had sufficient assets, have a private share portfolio. Now, it's quite common, but we were one of the pioneers of that idea. We were also pioneers in evolving rand hedge type contracts to be administered for our clients. So those are some of the ideas that we brought about. It's so good to see somebody develop, a client who develops and their financial wealth gets to a point where they can retire comfortably. It's a very satisfying experience. Just as satisfying as a doctor who puts a new heart in and that person is running the Comrades Marathon a year later. It's a very fulfilling experience.